and death, you're really nailing those 2 points, I said. But why is it cursed? Because you will die. So I'll die because it's cursed, and it's cursed, so I'll die? Yes. What if we just anchor here and do some fishing, resupply, that sort of thing? Another pause as Svart tried to suss things out. The waters around here are not cursed, no, Svart finally said. And the fishing? Good. We like it. Great. We're going to pause here for a bit to fish. Maybe have a rest, maybe even have a party. You can come on over and we'll feed you and talk about the cursed land that will kill us if we go ashore. I got nothing but confused looks in return. So, I said to Harpy, want to go fishing? Chapter 2. The Otter folk were right about the fishing, at least as far as I could tell. I didn't really know much about fishing. I'd never done much of it, and didn't bother starting at that moment, but it certainly seemed like anyone who dropped a line in was pulling in fish at a decent clip. The black-spread eagle's cook, a hard-scrabble dwarf with 1 leg and 1 eye, who only ever went by Cookie, eagerly stumped about the deck, grabbing the fish and hauling them back to the galley. All the while, the other ship hung off the stern. They were fishing too. Well, some of them were. Most of them were kind of standing around and watching us. Harpy sat on the edge of the deck, his legs hanging over the water, leaning back with his craggy, bearded face up to the sun. I dropped down next to him. Should I go over? I asked. He opened 1 eye and looked at me. No, he said finally, closing his eye and resuming his sunning. You want to expand on that? I asked. If and they want to say more than what they said, they'll come over. Noted, but what if they know something about the City of Darkness? Assume they know. Be weird if and they didn't. So, shouldn't I go over and find— Look, I get you being interested, but perhaps you be looking round to what the others aboard be doing, eh? You really just relish supplying vague, partially helpful answers when you could just give me a straight answer. Well, I got this weird feeling you ought to be learning how to be in this world without someone to hold your hand. Now, look. I rolled my eyes, feeling over the Socratic banter we always fell into. Still, after rolling my eyes, I looked around the ship, paying attention to the sailors and their activities. It looked like a normal stopover. Granted, we hadn't really done much of that during this trip, considering that moment was our first stop since leaving port in faraway Chain. Some of the sailors were fishing, some were swabbing the deck. Even more were engaged in basic repair of some kind, stitching sails, pulling off wood and replacing it, slapping paint on the hull, those sorts of activities. Notably, the lookout was still in the crow's nest. The only person missing was Alistair, the captain, though that wasn't particularly unusual, as the captain seemed to spend most of his time in his cabin or by himself. But in looking around, I realized that everyone else on the ship kept an eye on our neighbors, and not a, hey, those guys look like cute otter people look. This was more of a, those otter people might just decide to beat us down type of look. Why is everyone scared? I asked. Them sea dogs, Harpy said so softly I could barely hear him. First time I ever seen 'em not trying to take everything what's not theirs. Pirate, I started, but he snapped his fingers so sharply I shut up. No need to invite trouble. I can't even say the word. Rather you didn't, but that's what you mean, right? I mean they got better hearing than you and me, and if you were to say some disparaging remark, it might be in our best interest to not. I'm not saying nothing. That's right. Still, them's nice right now, he whispered. Mightn't be they waiting for some fuzzbrain to waltz on over and present himself for kidnapping, at which point those of us staying here need to figure out what we can part with for said fuzzbrain. Get it? Got it. Good. We sat there a moment in the sun, pretending we were just relaxing. But I still need to learn some more about the City of Darkness and all that. Agreed. Tips on that? Volunteers? For what? Setting foot on that there island. I'm not asking one of the sailors to potentially die by going, perhaps volunteer weren't the right word. Perhaps forced volunteer, like a crab or some